Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Baker McCormick, Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Here.
Chair Varga.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
Item B, Chairwoman's remarks.
None right now.
Next item, item C, approval of the minutes of the July 13th, 2021 meeting.
So
So
moved.
moved, Madam Chair. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Corrections? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you.
We're moving to item D, unfinished business. There is none. Moving along to item E, new business. Number 1, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2021 35-182, reallocating expenditures in the Community Corrections Fund.
Already, any discussion on item 1? I'll
Move for
take a
approval.
motion.
Support.
Commissioner Baydoun and Martha G. Scott. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick, Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Yes.
Chair Varga.
Yes.
Motion
We will,
carries.
thank you. We will give Commissioner Baker McCormick a temporary excuse.
Thank you. Moving to item E2, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2021 35-206, reallocating expenditures in the general fund.
Okay, any discussion on item 3?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's record roll call, please.
Hello.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Yeah, it's not ready yet. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
Done.
Commissioner Anderson, did we skip 2? Or are we coming back to 2?
We on 2 now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said 3. I thought the chair
Yeah,
said
I'm
3.
ordering it now.
Okay.
Hello.
Thank
I'm ordering it.
I do have a question on it.
Okay.
Just wanted to ask what the current salary or what the new salary would be.
Through the chair, we're going up from $31,000 to $33,000. This expenditures is for both salaries and fringes. So in salaries, we're going up only $2,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone has any questions on item 3, and we'll take a motion on 2 and 3.
I'm sorry, we're on item number 2.
We're voting on 2.
I was gonna sneak in item 3 with it, but okay. Please call the roll on item 2.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick is joining. Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydoun,
Yes.
Chair Varga,
Yes. Next item.
Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Here.
Thank you.
Wait, that was the vote on the second item, Commissioners. Your vote a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, can you mute everyone except the commissioners?
Yes, one moment, please.
Thank you.
Still
I'm sorry.
have background.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to unmute everyone. Okay, looks like everyone is muted. We're moving to item 3, requesting commission approval. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to do the roll call for item number 2. Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydun,
Yes.
Chair Varga.
Yes,
Okay, now we move to item number 3, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2021-35-200 certified revenue and reallocating expenditures in the general fund.
thank you. Any discussion?
I'll move approval, Marecki.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. I hear no discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydun,
Yes.
Chair Varga.
Yes,
Motion carries. Moving to item E4, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2021-35-196 certifying revenue in the general fund.
Move approval, Kinlock.
been moved and
Support.
supported. Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Marecki,
Yes.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydun,
Yes.
Chair Varga.
Yes,
Motion carries. We're now moving to item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I have none at this time. Anyone have any issues you'd like to bring before the committee? Next item.
Item G, public comments.
Thank you. Would you please unmute everyone now?
Everyone has been asked to unmute themselves.
Okay. This is public comments. For the public to comment, if you have any comments to make, please do so now. Any public comments?
Good morning. If I may, this is local 1659 Ask Me President,
Say your name, please.
Darlene Buffington.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning. This is not a
morning.
question of the commission. This is addressed to the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. Under public comment, I would just like them to email me the answer to the chat for the allocation under E2. Number one, is this an appointed position? And number two, will others receive an allocation? That is directed to Samaya of the Sheriff's Department. She knows how to contact Ask Me 1659. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I'm sure she will note that. Any other person would like to talk under public comments? Anyone else would like to speak under public comments? Okay, I would just like to acknowledge that the chair of our commission has joined us. Chair Bell, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I know this is public comments, but before we adjourn, if you would like to say something, I will give you the floor, or we can wait until we start the public hearings on the budget.
No, I'm fine. Just tuning in. Thank you so much.
Okay. Next item, please.
Item H, adjournment.
So move.
We'll now move in. Is there support?
Is there support?
Support, Kinlock.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next. Now we're adjourned this part of it, and then we'll go into the budget next.
Okay. We're going to do a roll call vote for the budget hearing.
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Baker McCormick, Commissioner
Here.
Baker McCormick.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Kinlock,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Present.
Vice Chair Bajun,
Here.
Chair Varga.
Here,
Motion.
do we need
yeah,
to, just for, make sure we're okay, do we need to make sure that everybody is in Wayne County or say otherwise?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds like
Are all
everybody's in
coming
Wayne
in?
County.
Thank you. Item B, Chairwoman's remarks.
Welcome to what is going to be a very busy summer for us on the budget. I'm really looking forward to working with everyone, and I appreciate so far all the work that you have put in with the prior budget, and so I think we're going to enjoy seeing some good things in the future. So with that, I will turn it over to Mark Abbo, our fiscal advisor, director, and let him take over from there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we go into the budget presentation by our Chief Financial Officer and the budget sensitive report by our Auditor General, just a couple of brief comments. You know, we just recently received the budget. I want to thank the administration because actually right now we're about a month ahead of where we were last year. Last year we didn't start this process until the latter part of August, so we are well ahead of that. The budget that we're going to be talking about is a $1.7 billion budget. It includes some of the following, and I know I'm going to be touching on some of the points that the administration will be talking about, but just very briefly, it includes almost $420 million worth of personnel related cost. $73 million of that is pension. It includes a 2.5% increase in compensation for Wayne County employees. It includes tax collection this year of about $351 million, which is an increase from last year. Actually, the general fund will be to $315 million of that. I said that the total is $351 million. Just for some perspective, I don't know if commissioners realize it, but we have not hit yet the peak that the county had in 2007 of $414 million. So we are still below tax revenue that we were collecting many years ago. So this year again is almost $352 million. Good news is the anticipation for the general fund is that there will be a $3.2 million surplus for the year. Capital expenditures this year will be approximately $170 million, and jail construction related costs will represent about $155 million of that. Over the next several weeks, we'll be going into significant amount of detail with all of the departments regarding their budget allocations, and this is the beginning of it. So with that, I think it would be appropriate to go to our Chief Financial Officer, Huey.
Thank you, and thank you, and thanks to Mr. Abbo, Fiscal Director for the Commission. Also thanks to Chair of the Committee, Chair Varga, as well as Chair Bell. We really appreciate you all support and patience as we've been working through delivering this budget. I'm happy to formally present this budget on behalf of the CEO to the Commission during today's hearing. I have to, I really do have to say thanks again to the Commission staff. From last year, we did everything we could to make sure that we did not repeat what happened last year due to COVID and other challenges. But this year, I'm looking forward to we have more time to really dive into this budget and make sure that it meets all the needs of not just all the departments, all the commissioners, but also on top of all that, the residents and the taxpayers of Wayne County. So this is the CEO's seventh balanced operating budget that we are presenting here today. It does fully fund not only operations for all the departments, his departments, as well as the elected offices, but it also pays the pays the pension, as Mark did allude to before, or it overpays actually. It goes above the actuarially required contribution amount of $52 million, if I remember correctly. In this budget, we also fund, as Mark alluded to, millions of dollars of capital improvements, not just the criminal justice complex, but also about $4 million of building improvements throughout Wayne County. We, Mark alluded to the fact that we're down in tax revenue. We've continued to be down in tax revenue since our peak back before the housing bubble burst. But we continue to try to alleviate the challenges that we have with our aging building infrastructure, and continue to fund maintenance, and continue to fund required maintenance on those buildings, as well as deal with emergency expenditures as well. So this budget does do that. Last year, when we did the budget, we presented the budget roughly 10 months ago. We presented a budget that utilized some CARES funding to maintain balance, right? So we did not know if the world was going to end when we did the budget last year. This year, we feel confident that we're towards the end of the COVID crisis. Obviously, with the Delta variant out there and vaccination rates lagging targets, we know we're not done yet, but we feel we're closer to the end versus the beginning. And our goal with this budget was to present a budget that did not require stimulus funding for balancing, right? And because of that, the reason for that was because we wanted to make sure that we funded, funded operations with normal recurring county revenues, as opposed to external government, federal government stimulus. Because if we needed to rely on that federal stimulus on an ongoing basis, we knew that that could be a recipe for challenges down the road. Because you hear me say this a lot, and I continue to say this. I will continue to say this. We do not want to regress in terms of the progress we've made with making sure that the county is fiscally solvent. We don't want to regress back to what we saw before this administration at the beginning of the last decade. And so that's one of the key principles in this budget. One thing that is important for everyone to understand is that the ARPA money, there is a certification of there's a different budget adjustment that's going in parallel to this, or is going in a different path to this, to certify half of the ARPA money that we received. We will work with commission, work with administration, work with other stakeholders that we have to lay out the initiatives of that. But this budget does not include that, again, because we wanted to make sure that stimulus money was not used to balance this budget. This budget does provide the last, I think, roughly $1 million to fund the CJC construction fund. And so we have been working to transfer money out from the general fund, as well as bond proceeds, to move that money over into the CJC construction fund. After this budget, that construction fund will be fully funded. Outside of any potential cost overruns, right now we're on target to get for substantial completion, I believe, at the end of next year. This budget fully funds that project going forward. And so, as Mr. Albo did allude to, we have a slight surplus in this budget of roughly $3 million. That's a little less than what I feel comfortable with. But one of the things to make sure in this budget did not necessarily get all where they quote unquote should be, right? Because we can only afford to do so much. But we did take a significant step in making sure that employees are recognized and taken care of. And so, as part of that effort, there's a path to 15 in this budget. This budget funds moving everyone that is below $15 an hour to making at least $15 an hour. This is very
Thank
important.
you.
I know that's very important to a lot of commissioners. You're very welcome. It was very important to the CEO to make sure that there was a path to $15 in this budget. We obviously have heard some of the, we've heard from the employees that have worked so hard for the county over the last few years, employees that have made sacrifices as we've worked our way through fiscal solvency, where we are now. And with that being said, that path to 15 is here so that every single position, every full-time position that is funded with this budget assumes that that position is making $15 or more. In addition to that, a majority of represented employees have or either have or in the process of having collective bargaining agreements updated for this coming fiscal year and beyond, or have already reached agreement with deals ratified by membership. And so this budget does fund that at least a 2.5% price wage increase as it relates to those representing union members as well as appointees. Again, as I said before, it was very important to the CEO to make sure that this budget did make signal and show his appreciation for all the hard work and sacrifice that employees have made to make sure that the county remains solvent, but at the same time, we continue to provide services to county taxpayers and residents. We got to do both, right? We have to make sure that that we remain solvent, but at the end of the day, the reason we're here is to provide services to our well-deserving residents and well-deserving taxpayers. Mark did allude to the size of the overall budget. Some of that obviously is grant funding, but I do want to talk a little bit about where we are in terms of our tax revenues. So I'll focus a little bit on the biggest line item, not the only line item, but the biggest revenue line item in our general fund, which is our summer millage, the general operating millage, which is the summer millage. We have seen some growth in terms of what we saw last year versus this year. Last year, again, we projected $265 million in last year's adopted budget. We were not out of the proverbial woods yet when it came to the backlash from COVID. This year, we feel that we are seeing the economic activity to at least get us back to where we were pre-COVID. Now, going back to Mark's comments about where we were pre-housing bubble crash and the dips that we saw in fiscal 12 and 13, we don't see that recovery. We're just really where we were before COVID, at least based on our projections. So right now, that line item is just south of $309.5 million. What we see, we don't see sustained revenue growth over the next 2, 3, 4 years, unfortunately, based on where things are macroeconomically in the region. We hope to see growth beyond that, but really, based on everything that we are projecting, we don't see that revenue growth. And that is, consistent with our research dealing with the University of Michigan, looking at what the state is saying, looking at what different private sector organizations are saying. We were even hesitant to restore back to where we were pre-COVID, but anything beyond that is really challenging. And the real message here is the fact that at the end of the day, as we look at not just fiscal 22, but we also have to look at, fiscal 23 and provide a projected balanced budget for fiscal 23, but also beyond that. The challenge here is that we see a revenue recovery, but we don't see revenue growth, right? Definitely not as the rest of the country sees a certain amount of growth. This region, unfortunately, we don't see it here to the point that we feel that we can budget for it. And until we can get that revenue growth, it's going to be a real challenge for us to be able to provide all the needs of all the different departments and elected officials. It was a real challenge. This budget was a real challenge. Yeah, just like last one was a real challenge. Last one was a real challenge. We at least had we at least had the stimulus funds to use. This year, without the use of stimulus funds, because that is not a budgeting best practice to use that stimulus funds on an ongoing basis. It really was difficult to make sure that the priorities that the CEO had laid out, and we had heard from commission, heard from elected officials, heard from employees, and heard from residents of the county. It was difficult for us to balance that and make sure that we had enough general fund, general purpose monies to meet all the needs. We were able to do it. It was, I hate to say razor thin, but it was a real challenge this year. Next year will be even more of a challenge, and that will be a continued, until we see significant revenue growth. And so, we weren't able to provide everything that was asked for, but we didn't have to have any cuts per se in this budget from last year's budget. One thing I will point out as well, this budget also assumes that there is no transfer from the DTRF. I think everyone is well aware that there is potential in continued litigation in the aftermath of the Raffaelli versus Oakland County Supreme Court case. Based on that decision that came down from the Michigan Supreme Court last year, we do not feel comfortable projecting in the foreseeable future a transfer from the DTRF over to the general fund. I think that that's probably going to be consistent with most, if not all, counties in Michigan, given the aftermath of Raffaelli. And with that being said, going back to my previous point, if you add the fact that there's no transfer, which we relied on that transfer for so many years for general fund, general purpose revenue, and the fact that we see stagnated revenue growth, if any revenue growth at all, in our millages, then we still are not out of the woods yet. And I preach this sermon quite a bit, and the CEO preaches this sermon and his key people preach this sermon as well, that we have to continue to keep our eye on the ball when it comes to fiscal solvency, right? We do not want to regress back to where we were before. And so with that being said, we still continue to try to balance a lot of different priorities. One of those obviously being fiscal solvency. Okay. Some other things I will say in addition to the points that were laid out before by Mr. Abo, I think this budget doesn't, again, the projections for this budget assume kind of a flattening, if you will, of revenue coming in from the general operating millage. We do see some growth in some of the other revenue line items that correspond to general fund, general purpose. And also just general fund revenues, like there's a small restoration, if you will, not a complete restoration, but a small restoration back from the airport parking tax, cigarette tax, as well as PPT, the personal property tax equity payments that come in from the state as well. So I look forward to working with Chair Vargas and Chair Bell and the commission staff, fiscal staff, and working, doing the hearings and working with the different departments and walking through their individual budgets. This is not an easy task for the administration, for the budget team, or for the fiscal staff. This is definitely hard work, but it's definitely worthwhile, because this is very important work for the future of the county. And I have to say, for the record, that I'm always humbled to be able to serve in this role. This is my second county budget. The last one was was definitely a challenge in the heart of COVID to get this done. This year, I know we will be challenged to get this done as well. But I definitely appreciate the opportunity to work with commission, work with commission staff, work with the leadership of Chair Varga and Chair Bell to get this done, and look forward to the next few weeks. But I have to close by saying a special thanks to and I will say this every time I get a microphone, a special thanks to the Budget and Planning Division of Management and Budget. You all don't see them all the time, but I tell you, when I say that they work through, day, night, weekends to get this done, this is not easy work. This one was a special budget in the fact that, Kevin Haney is still supporting us. He'll take a call from time to time. He hasn't blocked our calls yet. But he's tempted to. But this is one where he was not fully active in the development of this budget. So, I appreciate the hard work of the Budget and Planning Division of M&B. And you all don't always see them, but there's oftentimes behind the scenes. But they do a lot of. There's a lot of. I will say this: blood, sweat, and tears. We didn't cry too many nights. We did have shed a few tears getting this done, but I have to give them a special shout out. And with that, Madam Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Madam Chair, before we go to the Auditor General, just a couple of comments. I know that commissioners have not received a summary, and we didn't get anything in writing from the CFO. All commissioners did receive the actual budget itself, which is 451 pages long. We were in the process of putting together a summary. We noted that there were some discrepancies that we're working through right now that we're working with the administration to clear before they actually go to you. That gives you the information that you're looking for regarding, kind of working it down from 450 pages just to something that's more workable for everybody to put their arms around. I promise you will all have that information as we go through the process. We're actually starting the budget hearings on Thursday with Register of Deeds, Treasurer, Corporation Counsel, and we did not want to delay that in any way. So that information will be forthcoming. We'll validate the accuracy of it before anybody gets any information, and we will provide the summary information that everybody's looking for within the chat in sufficient amount of time that you'll be able to do your work, make the evaluation, and then vote on the ultimate budget.
Thank you, Mark. For members, we may have last minute items coming to us or corrections or whatever. If we do, please keep your emails checked before the day before our committee meetings in case Mark and staff send us new information. And as usual, we will do our due diligence and read through all the information prior to our committee meetings, so that way we're well informed and we can ask good questions and get good information back. The one burning question is for me right now is I'm worried about the Meals on Wheels. Are we making sure that no one is going to be left off the list this year?
Let me start the conversation by saying that we did not cut anything from the seniors budget. And so that's been restored. What I would want to do though, I want to make sure that the director is on, what I would say is two things. We didn't cut anything from the seniors budget, department's budget. And then on top of that, I like for us to make sure we revisit that when we have that departmental budget hearing.
I just wanted to give that to you up front to make sure that that would not happen with so many of our seniors still afraid to go out. We just want to make sure that if they need it, that we can deliver them the food. Thank you for the presentation, and we look forward to dissecting it and digesting it, and then finally dispose of it and send it to the committee of the whole and to the commission. Some of our meetings will be streamlined on Facebook, or actually streamed on Facebook, whatever the term is. And so the public will be able to hear, and I'm really interested, especially with all the different programs that we offer from the prosecutor People are usually very tuned into those kinds of interesting projects. So when that happens, we'll let the committee members know ahead of time. But thank you very much. Thank you for outlining it. Mark, you did an excellent job as well, cutting right down to the bone of it and stating it. So as soon as we get your presentation, we will make sure that all of the committee members, not just the committee members, but all of the commission members will have your presentation in writing as well. Commissioner Marecki.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask Huey a question. With the reports coming out from the state level about the enormous budget surplus they're going to have, do you have any feeling of what kind of revenue sharing we're going to get next year?
We put, based on all the input that we had received to date from the state, we went back to, we restored 12 million. So we remember we were 52 million before COVID and restored back to 52 million. Now, my hope is that, when the actuals hit, that we'll be higher than the 52 million, but to remain conservative, we restore it back to 52 million. There is noise from the state saying that, there's going to be a surplus. There might be more revenue sharing, but that wasn't firmed up enough to the point that we felt comfortable putting anything more than 52 million into the budget.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other committee members? Chair Bell, do you have anything?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
We
I
want to
missed my
make
days
sure our
on Ways and
leadership,
Means Committee.
but I appreciate your leadership. So I'm always going to ask if you have any comments.
Thank you. I appreciate
that. Next item then, item 2.
Item 2, Auditor General's Office Budget Sensitive Report.
I'm going to share the screen.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm trying to get the slideshow coming on.
We see it.
Yeah, it's up.
We don't get it now.
There you go.
Secor Auditor General, and I'm going to have my staff introduce themselves that's going to take part in the presentation before I give my little introductory. Dean Mike.
Wisnowski, Audit Manager.
Oh, sorry. Good afternoon. I'm Mindy Hayner. I'm Supervisory Auditor with the OAG.
I want to thank the Commission for giving us this opportunity to present our annual report and a review of the county's fiscal 2020 annual comprehensive financial report, now known as the ACFR, and budget sensitive issues as you begin your fiscal year 2021 budget deliberations. We believe this report contains issues which could have budgetary impact on the county's operation and financial position that came to our attention while we were reviewing the ACFR and our audits and consulting engagement reports. Mindy's going to do the presentation. I'll add it lib as we go through the presentation. I'll turn it over to Mindy.
Thank you. Beginning with slide 1, the purpose, objective, and scope. Marcy, you sort of touched on it. The purpose was to identify issues that may have a budgetary impact on the fiscal 22 budget and budget deliberations. Our procedures were limited to a review of the county's fiscal year 2020 annual comprehensive financial report, or CAFR, internal OAG reports that were previously reported to the Committee on Audit or other committee meeting minutes, and discussion with the administration, primarily management and budget. We shared our report with MMB and obtained their comments, which can be found at the end of each topic. Scope-wise, we focused on information that was presented to the Commission and the Committee on Audit for the period of May 1st, 2020 through April 30th, 2021, although we did consider some information that came to our attention post April 30th. Moving on to slide 2, the general fund. This slide highlights the general fund performance for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2020. In our report on page 5, there's a year-to-year comparison of the general fund's fund balance. And total fund balance at the end of the fiscal year was $192 million. This represents an increase of $9.4 million over the prior year. Of the $192 million, $157.4 million was unassigned. And the unassigned portion includes $23 million for budget stabilization, which is consistent with the prior year. Revenues in the general fund decreased in total by $48.4 million, as expected, due largely in part to the pandemic shutdown and public activity restrictions. On page 3 of our report, you can see a year-to-year comparison of the general fund's revenues and expenses and more detail on explanations of the fluctuations. Just in summary, property taxes decreased by $6.3 million. Much of this is due to various tax abatement programs and brownfield redevelopment agreements entered into by other taxing jurisdictions within the county. State sales tax revenues decreased by $11.5 million. This is a direct result of the pandemic and reduced user activity. Charges for services revenues decreased by $18.5 million over prior year. Expenses decreased $69.9 million. Much of this is due to eligible costs being absorbed by COVID-19 grant funds. Continuing on slide 3, we recommend the commission continue monitoring of the general fund and amounts reserved for budget stabilization, and also suggest the administration submit an annual report analyzing fees charged for services to verify they're comparable to peer counties. The administration's response to our suggestion can be found on page 5 of the report. Slide 4, unassigned unrestricted fund deficits and deficit elimination plans. Unassigned unrestricted fund deficits increased from $22.9 million in fiscal year 19 to $27.7 million in fiscal year 20. 8 funds in total showed a deficit. Under state statute, only 2 of these funds require a deficit elimination plan: the Economic Development Corporation Fund and the Community Corrections Fund. And on page 6 of our report, you can see a 3-year summary of fund deficits. The Economic Development Fund deficit is carried forward from 2017 and is on pace to be eliminated by fiscal year 2022 using general fund dollars. The Community Corrections Fund deficit is a result of disallowed county allocated costs that were charged to the fund. The deficit will be eliminated this year in fiscal 21 with a one-time transfer from the general fund. The deficits in Chapter 8 and Chapter 21 drains are due to insufficient user fees charged to cover expenses incurred. A deficit elimination plan was not required for those funds since they are part of the larger drains component unit, which was not in deficit position at the end of fiscal 20. The deficits in central services, environment, buildings and ground maintenance are directly attributable to the recording of net pension and OPEB liabilities, in which case the state does not require a deficit elimination plan. And finally, CSO, Basin's deficit was in the unrestricted fund balance. However, the fund in total was not in deficit. Therefore, a deficit elimination plan was not required. Continuing on slide 5, we recommend the commission request periodic updates from the administration on the progress of eliminating the fund deficits and request notification of projected or potential deficits and causing factors. Management response can be found on page 7 of our report. County debt and bond ratings. In August of 2020, the commission authorized the refunding of approximately $249 million of outstanding general obligation bonds Included in the refundings were 2008 capital improvement bonds, 2009 building improvement bonds, and the 2010 Building Authority jail bonds. Estimated savings on the refunding, unrefunding the entire amount, approximates $27.5 million. The county's bond ratings have remained consistent despite the challenges posed by the pandemic. And in fact, in early July of this year, the county received an upgraded rating from Moody's to an A3. Moody's cited the county's sound fiscal management and successful operating structure. Although there has been continued improvement, we recommend the commission request periodic bond rating reports and updated credit analyses from the administration, and also suggest newly published rating reports be posted on the Wayne County, Michigan investors website. Management's response can be found on page 8 of our report. Staffing shortages, overtime, and succession planning efforts. Over the years, as you all know, the county has experienced significant hiring and recruiting challenges across all county departments. In our report, we have a detailed summary of vacant positions as a percentage of budgeted positions for the last 4 fiscal years. In 2020, the county budgeted for 4,026 positions and 1,064 remain unfilled. The percentage of vacant positions increased significantly from 18% in fiscal 19 to 26% in fiscal 20. In line with this, overtime costs for fiscal 20 totaled $23.9 million, exceeding budget by $1.9 million. The sheriff's office accounted for a majority of the overtime at 61%. We did note that approximately $88.5 million of sheriff overtime costs were eligible to be funded with CARES Act dollars, relieving some pressure on the general fund. Succession planning efforts have been delayed as a result of the pandemic. The impact on budgets resulted in termination of several contracts with county vendors hired to assist with the succession planning implementation. In addition, some payroll and human resource staff assigned to work on the project were furloughed, leaving the remaining staff members to assume their duties. The administration has identified next steps in the process, which are outlined in our report. We recommend the commission request continued updates on the progress of hiring initiatives, hiring freezes, and their impact on key initiatives and mandated services. Furthermore, future budgets should accurately reflect overtime costs where possible. And retirement system funding on the next slide, slide 8. Defined benefit plan member headcount decreased, obviously, from 2,048 to 1,789 during the year due to the pandemic furloughs. This resulted in a decrease in member contributions. The plan is funded at 65% at September 30, 2020, which puts the county in compliance with Michigan Public Act 2020 of 2017, which requires a minimum funding level of 60%. Per the actuarial evaluation report, minimum employer required contributions approximate $51.7 million for 2021 and $52.4 million for fiscal 22. The actuarial evaluation report stated potential cash flow concerns with plan assets available to cover all employee contributions on deposit plus 69% of future benefits to present retirees and beneficiaries. This leaves no assets available to cover employer match obligations. Also, the ratio of plan assets at market value to retiree benefit payroll is 6.8. This ratio indicates that current plan assets available to cover approximately 7 years of retiree benefit payments, and payments beyond the 7 years is highly dependent upon future contributions and future investment return. On slide 9, the commission leadership should consider requesting the administration's plan to increase funding levels while still providing essential county services. Moving on to slide 10, the Delinquent Tax Revolving Fund. The DTRF experienced an $11.6 million increase in total fund net position as compared to the prior year. Page 14 of our report details the fund's total net position for fiscal years 14 through fiscal year 20. 100% of the assets total. 100% of assets totaling $328 million were pledged as collateral for repayment of tax revenue notes. In 2020, the DTRF transferred $17.4 million to the county's general fund, which is an increase of $2.9 million over fiscal 19. And the administration expects, as Huey mentioned, this amount to decrease going forward. Foreclosure auctions on occupied properties were postponed due to the pandemic. The redemption deadline was extended to March 31st, 2022, and auctions of unoccupied properties will proceed as planned in the fall. Commission leadership should consider requesting the Treasurer's Office provide an analysis of the impact foreclosure exemptions will have on the DTRF, including the effect on amounts that could be transferred to the general fund. Management's response is on page 14 of our report. The new CJC and the central utility plant. Construction continues throughout 2020 and into 2021. Project costs are estimated at $533 million. Expenditures incurred through October 2020 totaled $202.8 million. The county reserved $32.6 million to cover operating and maintenance costs for the 4 jail division properties, which the county will occupy until the move to the new CJC. Payments on the central utility plant total $13 million through 9/30/2020. The project is expected to be completed in spring or summer of 2022. We recommend the commission leadership continue to request periodic updates from the administration regarding the status of the CJC, including progress and timing of completion and any additional unanticipated costs. Management's response can be found on pages 15 and 16 of our report. On the Guardian Building net income increased by $780,000 over the prior year due to additional net revenue and decreased expenses. The building's occupancy rate increased from 95.5% in 2019 to 96.5% in 2020. First Street parking deck is approximately 81.8% occupied at the end of fiscal 20. And of those occupied spaces, 679 appear to be offered at monthly rates below market level. You can see the chart on page 16 of our report, which summarizes spaces in the First Street parking deck in use at various rates. Commission leadership should request monthly operating reports for the Guardian Building and First Street parking deck, which I don't think that they're receiving now, to monitor significant decreases in revenue, occupancy rates, and leased spaces, especially with the ongoing pandemic and remote working trends. Management's response is on page 16 of our report. The ERP system implementation update, the total project is projected to cost around $31 million. As of now, $17 million is under contract with Cherry Road Technologies, and the remaining $14 million is to be spent on supporting contracts and other subcontractor work. The county expects to go live in 2022. And it should be noted that the loss of JD Edwards or PeopleSoft prior to the go live would result in a significant service interruptions to the county. The commission should request updates on the status of the ERP system implementation and what plans are in effect should the JD Edwards system crash. Management's response can be found on page 17 of our report. The tech refresh, as you all know, laptops were purchased to promote remote working and social distancing with the pandemic. The original budget of $805,000 was reduced to $100,000. Primarily due to CARES Act funding used to purchase the laptops. although going forward, the county will continue replacing machines on a yearly refresh schedule. The commission leadership should consider requesting updates on the tech refresh should the project exceed the now budgeted $100,000. Management's response also found on page 17 of our report. Impacts from COVID-19 and CARES Act funding. As you all are aware, the governor of the state of Michigan issued a stay-at-home order in March of 2020. The pandemic created major economic impacts to the county, including the following. State aid, state revenue sharing was $11 million less than expected. Those funds were replaced with $18.8 million of restricted federal pass-through CARES Act grant dollars. Note that the state revenue sharing is general fund, general purpose. Airport parking taxes, $11 million below budget. Tourist excise taxes, $3 million less than budget were received. Salaries and other expenses, temporary furloughs were in effect May of 2021, and $65 million of eligible payroll costs were charged to the Federal CARES Act grant. COVID-19 response assistance, the county received $209 million federal and state pass-through CARES Act grant dollars and in 2020 to help with COVID-19 response. And in 2021, the county expects to receive $339 million ARPA grants. The commission should request frequent updates on how the CARES Act and ARPA grant funds are being spent and estimates of future airport parking tax revenues, SET collections, and future revenue sharing payments from the state. Management's response can be found on page 18 of our report. And in conclusion, we hope that and believe that the county's financial position is continuing to move in the right direction, but the continued fiscal challenges facing the county could have an impact on the fiscal 22 budget. We hope that this report and the issues mentioned will be helpful to the commission as part of the fiscal 22 budget deliberation process. If there are any questions or comments.
Thank you. That was very well done. I really appreciate all the work that you had put into it. Marcy, thank you.
I'd just like to mention too, if I could, we will be making this presentation tomorrow at the Committee on Audit. So by the time we get done, both Committee of Ways, Means and Audit will have seen the presentation.
Great. That is super. Any additional remarks you want to make?
No, I just want to thank Mindy and Mike for the great job they did on the report. I think it was very useful and I hope it helps in the budget deliberations.
As I was listening to all of the reports, it reminded me of how many other people used to work on the same report and how you're down to so few, and the work is very exceptional. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
Any committee members have any comments or questions?
Just thanks.
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
one, Commissioner Anderson, just one quick question of Marcy. Marcy, do you know when the last time a study was done on fees, the county fees that they're charged for different services, as well as whether it's documents and things like that, even parking and, rent? Because I noticed it was pointed out that we're below market. And I know we're going to be facing probably a continued decline in the parking because of people working from home and being given an option to work at home rather than coming in to work. So I expect it's going to continue to go down, but if we're not at least getting the market rate, I think, and whatever is being charged comparable for services when people come in, I think we're going to be continuing to exacerbate the problem.
Would agree with that. And I think not only parking, but all the fees, I think in every one of our budget sensitive reports, we requested the administration at least do an annual assessment of fees to ensuring that the fees that we're charging are at least covering our costs. At one time, we had done the food inspection and they hadn't done a fee increase in like 10 years. So then when they had to do an increase, it was a substantial increase. So that if we're assessing them at least annually, if we have to make any increase, it could be a small increase rather than a significant one, but we should at least put it annually. That would be something for the administration.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Was there any, do we have any information on when the last time that was done?
I would say the food inspection was probably about 8 years ago. As far as any other fee studies that'd be done by the administration, I am not aware of any, but they would be better apt to tell us.
Okay, thank you.
We'll dive into it later in the budget hearing process. Thank you. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Dow.
I'm not on this committee, but could I ask a question?
You certainly may.
Thank you. So this is, I guess, applicable to both presentations from the CFO and from the Auditor General about salaries for Wayne County employees. And I know our HR director's not, I don't think our HR director's with us today, but do you know if if we've done the salary study on where we're at with, and I'm more concerned with our lower to middle range salary workers, because I have a feeling that we're kind of at the low end of what we pay our employees. And, you know, those employees really are the foundation of our county. And I think that that's where our staffing shortage really is, and where we need to bump up those salaries so we can keep the employees that we have and attract new employees so that we, you know, can keep our foundation of our county. I would love to see a $15 minimum wage implemented.
We are getting it, by the way.
We got that.
It's in our budget now.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Well, wonderful. And then, but going up from there, is there any plans to, you know, make sure that our salaries are comparable to other industries?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
There is a study that we are finalizing. It won't come before commission because it's below the threshold that we agreed to, but we are working to finalize a contract with a firm that will be conducting a study. Hopefully we'll be finalizing that in the next couple of weeks, and that study will will begin immediately after that contract is finalized.
Okay, so it hasn't been started yet.
No, it hasn't been started. We did an RFP, finished an RFP, I think about a month ago. And so we're just finalizing the terms now.
Okay, so do you know how long that study would take to be?
That's part of the reason why we're still kind of negotiating what they see as a reasonable timeline versus what we need to want this done as quickly as possible. I'm strictly, I'll be guessing where we'll end up landing, but we want it done, in 8 to 10 weeks versus, a typical 6 months that they usually see. And we're trying to find some middle ground. That's where we are.
Okay. Do you think once that study is completed, would we be able to adjust salaries, or are we going to have to wait until the next budget to make those changes?
I think the big question is going to be how much, if assuming that we're not in market or at market, the big question is going to be how much. And obviously, the challenges are going to be how much of that gap we can close, assuming that there is a gap that they identify. We can always amend the budget mid fiscal year. I think the bigger question is how much versus how much how much do we have available versus waiting until the end of the fiscal year. So
yeah. Okay. Great to hear. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will get an update from Steve when he comes before us during the budget process. And I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say to that point, I thought you were done.
Oh. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So Huey, even if we wanted to like give employee increases, let's say, this pot fell out of the sky, how does that work with the union, like union contracts and that?
Yeah, that's one thing that makes it complicated, right? The study's going to look at is going to look at union and non-union, and it's going to look at obviously by role, by title, what the market dictates versus what we're actually paying. And so obviously for non-exempt employees, that has to be anything that we would do to address any gaps would have to be done through a collective bargaining agreement. So
okay, all right, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alrighty. Well, today was a good start of the overview of what we're going to be looking at, and probably some more as we go along. And so I appreciate it. Mr. Abbo, I'll let you go ahead and close this out.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to reassure the commissioners that we'll make sure that you have all the information you need in order to, as we go through department by department. The first one starts on Thursday. I know that we've got a grueling schedule, but we're hoping to have it all accomplished in the first week of September. So I thank you for your consideration, and look forward to dealing with the issues of the county budget. And if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to call or write me or my staff.
Commissioner members, do you have any questions about the schedule and how we're proposing to do it?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Did I hear Mr. Abbo say that we had the budget?
Yes.
It was my understanding that it was sent. We just recently sent it again today, just within the last few minutes.
So you sent it to
okay.
commissioners?
Because I know I just asked my staff and they hadn't seen it as of yesterday. So
Okay, we will also be getting summary information as well.
okay.
Just something to take a 450-page document down to something more manageable.
Okay.
It may take a whole day for them to download it.
But will we get the 450 pages?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's the one that was sent out first, and then Mark and staff are going to be sending them item by item as we're going to be discussing it. So for Thursday, we're going to get only the portion of it. After you first get the big one, then after that, you're going to get the portions just prior to the meeting that we're going to be discussing. So that way it's brought down to the minimum, and so that will make it easier to go through.
Okay.
And we're going to do that.
I just wanted to
for
make
each
sure
meeting.
that I heard him correctly. All right. Thank
Yes.
you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a quick question, maybe to Mark or to Marcy. In the presentation, they alluded to the fact that we're still behind the 2007 level in terms of generating property taxes. Do we have any idea, any expectation, how much longer do we need to catch up to the 2007 level?
Commissioner, I don't think that we'll fully recover till probably somewhere between 2026 and 2028.
Okay.
As you're aware, I mean, I'm sure you are. I mean, the Headley Amendment is, it allows the tax rates or the tax millages to go down, not the millages, I'm sorry, but the property values, the assessed values to go down. But you're still limited as they go up.
It's a much slower pace going back up. Yeah.
Right. So, unfortunately, most local units of government in the state are funded by property taxes. And we're not funded by things that are consistent with other economic activity. So that's why it's coming back so slowly. But yeah, it was at $414 million in 07, and we are not close to that. We're about $60 million below that at this point.
We're about 350, right?
Yes, sir. About 351, I believe, is the number.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty, and as you go along and you find things, please do not hesitate to reach out to Mark Abbo to discuss any of the budget issues prior to any meetings. So that way it will be a lot easier to go if you have some ideas that aren't in the budget and you'd like to discuss, as people are going to be writing letters to us in the next month or so that they want this, they want that. So we want to make sure that you pass those through to Mark Abbo so we can get a good look at it, and so we don't miss anything, and that we consider everyone's interest and everyone's ideas. Thank you
Madam
very
Chair.
much. Yes.
Yes, I know that you had set a deadline for commissioners to get a budget priority to you. You know, I've been quite consumed over the past month, but I will absolutely follow back up with you this afternoon.
Thank you. Feel free to call me. I'll be available. And we did get the $15 increase,
Yes, that's why I
so
did
we
the
do not.
resolution. Yeah.
So we do not have to have the resolution, which is
Right.
always a good resolution to have without a resolution. So
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
that was a great thing that you championed, and you can be proud that it's in the budget. And that's what I like to do. I like to have the administration hear from the commission prior to them sending down the budget to show them what is important to us. And I'm very proud that they listened. And
But I'm gonna say this: you and the chair received it well. You said there were some things that y'all already wanted to look to do, and y'all championed it with me with the administration. So that it worked out real well. And the county executive was very open to it when we spoke to him. So I
Yes.
appreciate it worked out well. The other priority was more of a, I'm circling back with the chair about community, nonprofit community group opportunities that we had briefly talked about in February. Yeah.
I think there may be some other ideas that we can pass through even without touching this particular budget, as we're getting federal dollars in, that I'm talking out of the box, as I'm looking outside the box to see if maybe there might be some things that we might be able to use some of the federal dollars for with the students or with young people or with nonprofits. So I think we're all on the same page. The only thing that I would like to
Perfect.
have
Yep.
everybody consider is it doesn't have to come out of this particular budget. Doesn't matter where it comes from as long as we get it done.
That's correct. Yep. I'll call you this afternoon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other committee members who would like to speak, or any other commissioners who may be on the line?
Just want to make sure that you receive something from me, from my district.
Already.
I sent it some time ago.
You got your Tiger Stadium. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
This is for my young people.
I
so
know,
that-
I know.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure you got it.
Tell your staff to send it again just to be sure it's fresh in your
Okay,
mind.
all right, because we sent ours in immediately. Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Alrighty, in that case, next item.
Next, item D, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
None. Next item.
Next item, item E, public comments.
Father in heaven, I thank you for this.
Would you please unmute everyone?
Everyone has been asked to unmute themselves.
Okay, is there anyone from the public who is wishing to comment? Please do so now.
Yes, President Darlene Buffington of ASME 1659, just wanting to thank the Honorable Commission for the appreciation of the employees and the push to recognize the employees and their cries in regards to the need of more monetary help in their households. Thank you all so, so much from ASME Local 1659.
Thank you. Normally, we don't comment back, but we heard you. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Thank you. I hear none. Next item.
Item F, adjournment.
So move, Madam Chair.
It's been moved. Supported by Commissioner Baydoun. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
See you Thursday.